Okay. Hello, everyone. Today is June 6th, 2022. This is a meeting of the SIG Network Policy API subgroup to SIG Network. This is a CNCF certified meeting, so please be nice to each other and let's have a good day. As I was stating before I started recording, not too much on the agenda today. I do see a new face. Hi, Brian. Would you like to just give us a quick intro why you're here? What you're interested in?
Yeah, I just recently took on a new role as principal at ThoughtWorks. They have a pretty heavy open source program, and I've been a user of Kubernetes forever. So just trying to find groups where I can jump in and help and see where I can get involved. And Network is one of the ones I work with a lot. So.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you. We definitely need help. As you can see, we're a pretty small community. I think we've been getting smaller. So we're trying to increase our sphere of influence moving forward.
Awesome.
Yeah, and our agenda's in the calendar invite. If you look back, and one of our main efforts right now is admin network policy, which we've got a KEP submitted, and we're finalizing the final stages of the API itself. So that's been our major piece of work, and out of that will come a lot more work. So if you're ever interested, reach out in our Slack channel. I have a bunch of items that are going to come up that we need help with.
Okay, I'll throw a wave in there now. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Cool. So on the admin network policy API, Dan, I got to your changes about a week ago, I think. Besides that, I don't think there's anything left to do. Do you think we're nearing kind of merging of the pre V1 Alpha 1 version of this API, or is there much left to do?
Well, I don't think this is even pre V1 Alpha 1. I mean, this is V1 Alpha 1, right? I should have gotten back to this sooner, but I actually just tagged it LGTM hold now. So it now has LGTM, but it also has hold because I was saying it would be good to get Tim to look at it again, especially with the change that we made with ports to have the pointer to array. He may remember in more detail what the pros and cons of that are. But yeah, other than that, I think it is ready to merge. And if he doesn't get a chance to look at it soon, then maybe we merge it anyway. And, there's going to be an Alpha 2 anyway.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, people are going to find bugs as we start implementing it. So I would like Tim to see it too. And I'll try to do a little more research. I said on your review that I would do it, and I haven't gotten a chance to. I think if we can find an example somewhere else in the API or a CRD somewhere where they're doing that, that would be sufficient, right, Dan? For at least the pointer to the array question.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, It doesn't necessarily answer the question of whether it's considered a good practice, right?
Fair enough.
We know it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, we should define it. We should be able to define it as a good practice or not before we implement it. Fair enough. Awesome. Well, thanks for all your work on that. I will reach out to Tim and just give him a poke to give it a last review and see if he has any huge problems with it. If not, we'll go ahead and move right along. So that's exciting. Any other questions with admin network policy? Yang?
Not a question, but I just realized I promised to do a round of review for the CAP updates, but I forgot to do that. So I'm adding this to my calendar, and I'll make sure I do that for this week. And okay. I just took a quick look. It seems like it's just all API updates, and those look good to me. But as I said last time, I will go through the CAP one more time and see if there's any narratives in the description that has changed since the CAP is merged and the new API has spawned. So I feel like there is something that might need to be updated in those lines. But I'll guess I'll just push a commit on top of your commit so that we include these things.
Yeah, feel free to steal my commit in your NPR if you want, and I can close it. There is some unresolved items you'll see in the CAP. Those should all be fixed. So you can also update that, but it's pretty clear.
Yeah, I will do.
Cool. Awesome. So that's exciting. I will definitely ping Tim. Next steps in my mind, at least, are possibly further exploration of Dan's idea of an eBPF implementation for this upstream, just to like get people excited, spread awareness. But more, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
So I realized it doesn't actually work as well as I thought it does, because you need to intercept traffic in at least 2 and possibly 3 places, because it has to happen after service proxying, but before network policy.
Mhm.
And so
Mm.
there's like, you can't do it on pod egress because that's before service proxying, and you can't do it on pod ingress because that's after network policy. So it has to happen in the middle of the existing plugins processing, and so that makes it a little trickier to figure out how to generically insert it in a way that would work with all network plugins.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think reaching and trying to get it to work with all network plugins is definitely far. I was thinking even before that, just getting a POC maybe that folks could just spin up locally and play with, like, and maybe that's just with KubeNet and upstream kubeproxy. Like, I think we could make that work to start. I don't know how much it's worth because we can't do it with every CNI, but
I mean, pretty much any CI that is not already using eBPF and is not using OVS, you could probably make it work with a handful of IP tables rules.
Mhm.
So,
and do you mean IP tables rules pointing to BPF programs or just
yeah,
vanilla?
yep.
And maybe a little off topic, but in some cases, if we're pointing a packet to a BPF program from an IP tables rules, doesn't that, not make it as worthwhile? Because technically you want to be hitting a BPF program in kernel space before you even touch IP tables.
I mean, so for one, this is a proof of concept,
Right.
not but 2, I mean, the packet is still saying in kernel space, right? It's not like,
yeah,
so
fair enough.
You're not bypassing every possible bit of kernel network processing that you could be bypassing, but I don't think you really want, like a lot of times people, when they start to look at eBPF stuff, they're like, oh, we could just like directly splice these 2 sockets together and completely bypass everything in the universe. And yeah, you can, but it's going to make it really hard to debug.
Yeah.
So I think for at least like baseline implementations, we should be aiming for things that still mostly work, like, IP tables and things like that, but just using newer technologies rather than things that completely just, teleport your packets, through random places. And
yeah, but then the question is, why use eBPF if the performance isn't there?
Because, well, no, I mean, it would, well, okay, so for one, like, people mostly aren't hurt by performance of the actual packet routing parts of IP tables. They're hurt by the API of getting stuff into and out of it, and the fact that looking up IP tables rules, is can be slow if you have too many of them. So, but like, if you can turn 10,000 IP tables rules into a single eBPF call, then you win.
Totally.
Sorry,
Cool.
Did I totally cut out during that?
No, we got you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm getting into the weeds. I'm more just thinking about eBPF, but cool. So it's a good idea. There's some interest. It may not be as useful as you first thought. I still think it would be an exciting study for someone looking to get into eBPF / us to advise on. So I'll reach out to folks, and if there's any folks here that want to, think about it, let me know. I'm happy to help. Cool.
I'm no expert in eBPF at all, but I'll just say that for OVS side of implementations, you can definitely count on Antria implementing it, and it will be sort of like a reference implementation, and we're already start working on it. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we'll definitely. We will definitely do it in Oven Kubernetes. I don't know. I will definitely be helping a little bit. I don't know if Dan will, but we got to get the API merge first, and then we'll decide. I guess we could start a little early, but we haven't yet. Cool. The next action item. So as the API kind of comes into its own, there's a lot of other stuff we need to do. We need to start thinking about documentation. We need to start thinking about tools we want to start putting together for the admin network policy API. Basically, the question is like what we want to do moving forward with the network policy API repo. Like right now, it's pretty ugly and bare bones. It's about to have an API in it. What else do we want to do? I'm looking for, other ideas here with the goal in mind to make it kind of a place for folks who want to learn more about policy, Kubernetes policy in general. So maybe that's the coalescing of network policy docs, and then also the addition of new admin network policy tools, or something along those lines. But need help with that. There's a lot to do there. So we just need to make it better looking because it reflects our working group. And right now it's bare bones. So just something to think about. I'm not really looking for folks to raise their hands yet because there's not action items, but there will be.
So in terms of documentation, I was thinking on lines of what exactly in your mind will be something to be added in addition to what the CAP has, right? Because so the CAP is sort of like the proposal, right? So it does have all the API documentations and how we arrived at that. But I guess in the actual repo, the documentation might need to be more focused in terms of use cases and how
Right.
people can get started on using those things.
Yeah. I mean, no matter how good of an API we have, if we don't have good documentation and a good, this is how you get started framework, it's never going to get used. So
yeah, I know, but I feel like the CAP already has a good section of 5 or 6 user stories with sample APIs that we can just as a starter throw in there. Because right now it has something like if you wanted to isolate every namespace in the cluster, right? What is a admin network policy that can enable that? And this is probably some first bits we want to throw in the documentation for it.
Right. No, I agree. So first bits we can pull from CAP, as kind of a colorful exploration as how where we can go. I definitely would one day like to look like the Gateway API docs because they're, in my opinion, pretty good. And they have like a dedicated website already built, and I think it's pretty easy to build a website like that using MK Docs, which is the tool they used. So I'd like to look into that for sure. So we have a website rather than just a repo. That's definitely a first goal. And beyond the KEP, I think it'd be nice to illustrate what YAMLs are going to look like for a couple more common use cases. So start with the KEP, right, Yang, and then expand on providing some more sample YAMLs just for folks who maybe want to go a bit deeper.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. And then the last bit I had on there is adding Cyclonus. So this is less about adding Cyclonus to that repo and more about, do we want to store like more tools, network policy and policy related tools in the network policy API repo, as well as like admin network policy definitions and stuff like that? Or should we look at making a new repo? Because obviously we're going to need to add some developer tools for AMP. So those are going to have to either live here or somewhere else. Well, I'm thinking they can live here. That's my first inclination because we already have a repo. It makes no sense to spin another one up unless we have to. So
yeah, I agree.
For now, we'll do that.
But just as a reminder, what tools were we actually thinking about for network policy when we were talking about it? I know, we wanted something sort of like which illustrates how maybe deny allows in the by the time the baseline allow work together. So in today's context, maybe something really similar to Synchronous, in the sense of if we have both these 3 or 4 policies stacked together, and some of them can even be baseline, and then what will traffic look like from one pod to the other? Is that the tools that we're having in mind, or is that
Right.
something else?
I agree. That's like the first step. I mean, Cyclonus is more of a conformance engine. So I was thinking we just add support for admin network policy there, but then also having some sort of CLI to help developers better understand the security posture of their cluster with a simple command, right? So like maybe a kubectl plugin that says like kubectl describe a pod. And right now you can do that for network policy and stuff, but maybe you could do like describe security context of a workload. And it shows you like the network policies, the admin network policies, et cetera, that are touching that workload. And if traffic maybe is going to be denied or allowed, I don't know, something along those lines.
We do we have that for upstream Kubernetes regardless of CNI? I find that hard to believe.
Right now we just have like you can describe a network policy and it just puts it in like, so kubectl describe network policy A, and it
Right,
puts
but
like
it doesn't really
enumerable.
show you what pods are
Right.
selected by it, right?
Right.
Okay, makes sense.
So I'm thinking we have tooling that extends that quite a bit, right? To like basically make it easier for an admin to understand the total security posture for a workload, right? And we had a section on that in the CAP.
So, and if you're going to be implementing admin network policy in eBPF, you're going to have to write some code that will look at the current sets of namespace and pod labels and policies and figure out like all that stuff so that you can translate it into the data structure that the eBPF program will use. So like if you're careful, you ought to be able to reuse that same code in the, figuring out which pods this network policy applies to for debugging purposes code. 'Cause
Right,
it's really
right,
the
right.
same thing, right?
Right, and I think it's also the case for our CNIs, because for whatever CNI who's implementing this, I will believe that the same thing will happen, right? So in CNI, they must have some sort of like internal stores on, what pods are this policies selecting, and what are the ingress and egress peer currently. So if we just pull that out from a CNI cache or whatnot, it's also gonna work, really smoothly. But I don't want this to be tied to a specific CNI though.
Right. So I had some thoughts this morning kind of along those lines. Like we could almost mimic what KPMG did for network policy, like decoupling the Kubernetes bits and providing like a clean API so that, folks who are implementing only have to implement responses to an API. But there's a shim layer in there allowing you to do observability, troubleshooting, everything. But obviously that's a little further out. Just a thought I had. Could be cool.
You mind if I ask a maybe dumb question?
Mhm.
So you guys are providing the API for admin policy, and then each CNI will then implement it, or? Okay, gotcha.
Just like network policy today, some CNIs don't even implement network policy, but some do. So we'll be following the same thing. We're just defining the API. Implementers will do what they will. Same with the gateway API, et cetera, et cetera. But
Gotcha.
lately, there's been some more initiatives towards, looking at bringing some of this functionality upstream or closer to upstream, maybe in the SIG groups. So having, like we talked about before, a reference implementation upstream that folks can just pull and plug really quick. Now that we will make no guarantees that I'll work with your CNIs, but it'll be
At
good
least
thing to
then you
have.
don't have a bunch of people implementing it like completely differently for eBPF between each CNI.
Right. And generally there's an extreme lack of knowledge around Kubernetes plus eBPF. I mean, Cilium has everything, and there's no Cilium folks here. So here we are.
A user of Cilium, but definitely
Right.
don't know how good I am at extending it.
So it'd be cool to bring some of that knowledge to the wider community for sure. Okay. I think we have some good things to go on. I have an action item to poke Tim, which I've gotten pretty good at. I've poked him a lot throughout this process. I don't know if he's annoyed with me yet, but we'll see. Otherwise, there is also going to be an article Ying and I had started a while back that we're going to try to put out onto the airwaves once this is kind of finalized and merged, just kind of presenting admin network policy. And we also submitted a KubeCon talk last week for North America to kind of present ANP to the community and see where we can go with it. So yeah, there's a bunch of places to get involved, Brian. If you're really excited, reach out in Slack, and happy to plug you in anywhere.
I'll be at KubeCon as well, so we can meet.
Cool. Yeah, we're hoping to be there. Okay, anything else from folks? Gonna take that as a no. Well, thanks you all for all coming today. Thanks for the continued review. Oh, sorry, we have one more addition. Hey, Victor, how's it going? We were just wrapping up.
I think he or she just was just connecting to audio and didn't hear.
Oh, I gotcha.
Hi, Victor. We're just mentioning we have a new addition here. So maybe you want to introduce a little bit about yourself and what brings you here, maybe.
Yeah, I'm actually just interested to learn at this point.
Cool. Well, we were just wrapping up the meeting for today. But if you want to learn a little more about what we're doing, definitely check out the agenda. We have most of our action items we've been doing. A lot of them are around a new resource called Admin Network Policy. But that's coming to an end, and we're looking to expand and wrap up. Moving forward onto new things. So.
Okay.
We also are all on Kubernetes Slack, so we have a channel specifically for this working group. So feel free to reach out with any questions along the way, and yeah, we're happy to have you here.
Thanks.
Cool. Okay, pretty short for today. Thanks again. I hope you all have a good rest of the week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. Bye.